Hello, and welcome to the Jane Eyre Book Club, where we only talk about one book, Jane Eyre. Let me just start off by saying it has been way too long since I released a video. So long, in fact, that I dyed my hair. And I also finished the book. So now you're not just looking at someone who only read half of Jane Eyre and is talking about it. You're looking at someone who read the entire book. And I think that makes me so much more qualified. By like 50 more percent. Because that's how math works. So, let's get right into it, right where we left off.
Disclaimer.
This episode is dedicated solely and only to Jane Eyre's first encounter with Mr. Rochester. And if you thought I was going to explain more of the book, I'm sorry, but I feel like a whole episode needs to be dedicated to this interaction because it surprised me. I watched the movie, and let's just say Mr. Rochester looks nothing how I thought he looked like. And we're only going to start with that little nugget, that little teaser. So, basically, Jane Eyre meets Mr. Rochester in this unconventional way. One day, she decides to go on a walk around the property, and she's just going up the hill, you know, as she does. You'll learn Jane Eyre in this book, she loves nature. She just loves it. She thrives. So as she's walking, she sees this guy coming up the road on his horse, and she like looks up at him, and it ends up that his horse actually slips on the ice. Not fun. Horse falls over, guy tumbles over. Jane Eyre's like, wow, that's crazy. So basically, Jane Eyre asks if he's injured, and she writes, I think he was swearing, but I am not certain, which I just think is funny, because her first interaction with this man, and he's just cussing up a storm. Potentially. She doesn't actually know if he's swearing, but knowing Mr. Rochester, he probably is. And so she helps him up, and I would love to just read to you the description of Mr. Rochester, because this, compared to the Mr. Rochester we see in the movie, is probably the most glaringly obvious difference between the book and the movie. She describes him saying, he had a dark face with stern features and a heavy brow. He was past youth, but had not reached middle age. Perhaps he might be 35. And then she goes on to say, which I believe is funny because they're going to say this multiple times in the book, had he been a handsome, heroic-looking young gentleman, I should not have dared to stand thus questioning him against his will. That was a bunch of gibberish to say that Mr. Rochester is ugly. He is not a handsome man. And they're going to say this not just once. No, they're gonna say this multiple times. I'm sure you also heard my reading. He's in his later 30s, which would not be a problem, but then you think of how old Jane Eyre is. And this will also be mentioned multiple times in the book. She's 19. In another section of the book, they say he's close to 20 years older than her. It's fine. Based on this description, though, of Mr. Rochester, like him having dark features, I don't think he's described as fat, but he's also not skinny. He's like old, and he has these very strong features. So let's just pull up a picture of the guy from the 2011 version. Now, on looking at this picture, we see that obviously this man is hot, which is one of the main differences, I'd say, from the book and the movie. He looks like maybe he's in his 20s, obviously. He's attractive, okay? Enough said. When I was reading this description of Mr. Rochester, there was only one character that popped into my head that I was like, yeah, that's exactly what Mr. Rochester looks like. And, I mean, according to the description, I'm technically not wrong, but it's this guy. This French villain from that Barbie horse movie. I mean, hey, he got those thick eyebrows, those strong features. You know, looks like he's probably close to his 40s, 30s, 40s. So, let's just compare and contrast Mr. Rochester from the book, Mr. Rochester from the movie. So I get why they made this artistic change But I also think that it kind of destroys part of the plot. Because the whole point is that Jane doesn't really care that he's not that attractive or that he's older. Likewise, even though she's very plain, Mr. Rochester loves her for the same reasons. They both connect on an intellectual level, and they love to converse with each other about different deep topics and just discuss basically the questions of the universe. So that's basically my thoughts on Jane and Mr. Rochester's first meeting. Tune in next time and we'll actually talk more about chapter summaries and moving forward from Jane Eyre's first encounter with Mr. Rochester to their relationship developing and so on. There's still so much in this book that is going to happen. It's crazy. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to absolutely demolish that subscribe button. Slap it across the face. I hope you have a fantastic week. Alright, goodbye.